What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Alongside Colby Cohen, I'm Jonny Lazarus, and this is Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet, bet on Betway, and please play responsibly. Remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. We got a loaded show today. Frank Seravalli, NHL Insider, will be joining us at around 9:15. We're going to talk about the two games last night, get into the President's Trophy race that is getting very tight, and go into the incredible NHL slate that is tonight. So a lot of things to look forward to throughout this entire day. But Colby, let's get started with you. What's going on?
Well, I like how you changed it up a little this morning.
Yeah, a little different.
Caught me a little off guard. My day has started in a very hectic way, and I think anybody who watches or listens to our show who has dogs will understand this. I had both of my dogs out this morning. You know, I have my golden retriever, and I have my little guy, my little 11, 12-pound dachshund mix, and Rocket decided he was going to roll in whatever animal shit in our yard, and was just rolling all in it. And he walked over to me, and you could just see it all over him, and he stunk. So that's how my morning started off, having to throw Rocket in the shower and shampoo him down. And it was a lot of fun. It's a really great way to start the day. But I know anybody who watches or listens to our show that has a dog knows that it happens to the best of us at times. So that's how it's going over here today, Johnny boy.
I'm surprised you didn't bring that up this morning when we hopped on. That's pretty shitty to, no.
You asked why I was not in a good mood. Well, there's your answer.
Well, that makes sense, because when we hopped on this morning, anything I said, Colby just basically told me to shut the fuck up.
Jeremiah said 5 dogs. I have a dog named Rocket. Mine sometimes roll in moose shit. So there we go. All right. Everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And I like Recon Gamer coming out swinging this morning. Good morning to only Colby.
Oh, he chirps me every day. You don't see that guy every day?
I see him. Yeah. See him sometimes. Yeah, no, I see some of it.
Yesterday, he wrote in the chat, just popping in to say Johnny's a fraud, and then thanked me for getting him into betting. But
you are a little bit of a fraud. No, you're not a fraud. I think fraud's the wrong word for you. You're a lot of things, but you're not a fraud.
Thanks, Colby. I appreciate that. But let's get into the games last night, because 4 Western Conference teams, 2 pretty good games. The first game I thought was the more entertaining one, just from a playoff picture perspective. Vegas Golden Knights and St. Louis Blues. The Blues score a gorgeous goal to tie it up late in the game. Braden Shen with a sick backhand saucer pass over to Brandon Saad. And that game goes to OT. Pavel Buchnevich gets a penalty shot in overtime. Thompson makes a ridiculous save, and Marchessault ends up scoring the game-winning goal. And that is the worst-case scenario if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, because the Wild are chasing both teams. Not only do they both get a point, but the team that's already in the playoff picture, the Vegas Golden Knights, get the extra point. So if you're a Wild fan, that's kind of suck just to look at standings wise, but they're not out of it yet. I guess they're not really in it. Actually, they're pretty much done. I think it's fair to say the Wild aren't really going to get in now.
Well, the problem is everybody's playing each other the next 2 weeks, so everybody's getting points, and that's the problem with trying to jump teams, late in the season like this. And we got to give a little shout out. Singsy popped into the chat today from Cancun. So giving us a little bit of time on his vacation. I've seen some of the posts that he's had on social media. It looks like he's having a good time down there in Mexico. But good to have you on with us today, pal. In regards to that game, though, how about the hit Braden McNabb had that on Brandon Saad? That was a
I thought it was on Shen.
Hit. No, Shen fought him.
Oh,
the hit was on Saad. And then Shen didn't like the hit, so he popped in. I don't think people give McNabb the credit probably for being the hard-nosed defenseman that he is. White Cloud just, takes him right in. I mean, it's hard to tell from that angle because Saad's face obviously like whips back, but you got to know, like, you're rolling around the bottom of the circle and you're protecting the puck with a guy draped on you. Like, that was pretty old school by McNabb to come sort of hunting in. Jeremiah, do you actually watch the games, Johnny? He comes hunting in for that big hit. And here, the couple of things that I like about that play. First off, Brandon Saad stays in the game. I feel like a lot of now, like a guy takes a hit and they just call it a night. But it was a clean, hard hit. To me, he catches him here. Obviously, there's some whiplash for Saad, but I thought it was a good hit. I liked the physicality. I would say that game had sort of a playoff type of feel. You had two goaltenders that really came to play. Logan Thompson in net for Adin Hill last night, kind of reminding everybody, like, I was an all-star last year. I mean, he makes that big time save in the third on Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes, who is a big man and uses a very long stick, tries to pull the Forsberg. And Thompson's able to stretch out and keep it out. He also had a couple of big time hits or saves on Torrey Krug. Jeremiah said he left the game for a while. Yeah, but Jeremiah, he came back in that game.
He scored. Yeah.
Finished the game. So
scored the tying goal.
It's okay to leave for a minute. One thing that happens frequently is you get
protocol too, right?
You get pulled by a spotter. So someone will literally get into the coach's ear on the bench or the trainer's ear and say he has to come off. And they'll run you through like a quick little, concussion protocol situation, because you have like a baseline every year in training camp. You have to do like a baseline test. It's on file with the league. And then anytime there's an issue, they run you through these like basic little tests just to make sure everything's functioning. My point, Jeremiah, I appreciate you adding details that he came back and finished the game. Like he wasn't just out for the night. And that doesn't surprise me with Brandon Saad. I mean, he's an old school power forward type of player.
But I was going to say too, with the spotter thing, it happened on Sunday in the Avalanche Penguins game. Nedeljkovic got ran into by Casey Middlestat, and they pulled Nedeljkovic from the game, put in Jari. Jari let up a goal. Nedeljkovic came back from taking his test and went back in the net. It was like a crazy. But at that point, like, why not keep Jari in? But that's a topic for a different day or whatever.
Well, I don't think you keep him in. I think that's the right move. If a guy gets pulled by a spotter, oh my god, and he's playing, and he's playing okay. Like it's
been like 15-20 minutes at that point. Like,
yeah, but you got to put the guy back in. You gave him the start. It's not his fault. A concussion spotter pulls him out.
Of course not.
I'm not. I mean, I guess you have to do it. I feel like in today's sort of world, I think people are pretty cognizant of it. And I think sometimes hits look worse than they are. Like you could take a massive hit and you're totally fine if you're braced for it and whatnot. So I don't know if I love that whole thing where somebody from way up top can pull a guy off the ice. I mean, like, I understand it. And I understand the importance of taking, brain injuries seriously, but I'm not sure I like that at all, to be honest. I think sometimes
it's just to protect the players.
I get it, but I just think sometimes you see guys getting pulled and like they don't want to be pulled. They're annoyed about being pulled, which means they're fine. I don't know. I don't really know. So, but again, goalie duel. Binnington played very well. Logan Thompson showing Bruce Cassidy that he can win games. He can win big games. He can win important games, which, Adin Hill's been, dealing with injury problems this season. So probably a good thing to have that capable guy who can still step in and win. Like I already said, Logan Thompson played in the All-Star game last year. He's clearly a good goaltender.
Yeah, it's something they were able to rely on last year. I mean, they went through 3 different goalies in the playoffs. Obviously, a lot of
3 or 4, right?
I think 3. It was Brossoit, Thompson, and Hill. Quick, never a game.
Singsy says an abundance of caution is okay, but could also cost the team their season. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I understand it to some extent, but I also just feel like we're, in a situation where a guy's totally fine. Like I don't love it in that situation. So, I get it. I'm with you on that, Singsy. Maybe I don't know what the answer is. I don't have it. So, that was a good game. It was an important win for Vegas too. I mean, teams are hot on their heels right now. I mean, they really are. And, you see Jonathan Marchessault a guy we're going to talk to Frank Seravalli about a little bit later when he pops on the show, because he's about to score 40 goals this year, and he's going to be a UFA. And when they brought in Hurdle, with that contract, that all but sealed Marchessault's fate. I mean, I don't know where you're going to find money to get Marchessault back in, the original Vegas Golden Knight. I mean, he's is he the only OG left on the roster? Because Riley Smith's gone. Carlson, I think it's him and Carlson.
I think they still have. There was 6 during the Cup final last year. I think they only got rid of Smith. I think there's still 5 there.
Okay, who are they? Can you name them? Well, I know Carlson and Marchessault are 2. So who else?
I think Shea Theodore is one of them as well.
Okay.
I think this is gonna be tough. The chat's gonna shred us for this.
Well, let's hear. Maybe if someone in the chat, if the chat knows, was Shea Theodore an OG?
I'm pretty sure Shea Theodore was an OG.
Okay, so that's 3.
Who else? Carrier, I think, was an OG. I think. And who
was
else?
McNabb? I thought McNabb came. I thought he came over from LA in a trade. It's hard to remember.
I think it's those 5.
Theodore and Martinez, Jeremiah says.
Oh, Martinez is one? Carrier, yeah, I got Carrier.
Okay. William Carrier, Carlson, Marchessault, McNabb, and Theodore. So McNabb was. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, but, Marchessault, I think, is kind of of that group. Like, he's the favorite. He's the flashy one. He drives the flashy Golden Knights. He won the Conn Smythe. He's a 40-goal man. I mean, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow, I think, for Vegas Golden Knights fans when he goes to, be a UFA this summer, and someone's going to pay him. I mean, you score 40 goals in a contract year, someone's writing you a big check that I don't think Vegas is going to be able to afford.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, you look at age also, he's 33 years old. Not that he's past his prime by any means. He's still playing like he's in his prime, but Vegas is a team which is interesting because it's not like they build toward the future necessarily. So I'm surprised they would let a guy like that go. But when you bring in a guy like Tomas Hurdle and whatnot, like how much older? I mean, Hurdle, it has to be around the same age, right?
It's got to be. No, I think Hurdle's a little bit younger. I think Hurdle's a couple years younger. I don't know off the top of my head, but he's definitely a couple years younger.
Hurdle's 30.
While you look that up, so 3 years. While you look that up, Robert Schmidt says, I think Vegas fans will be okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting you're gonna, Vegas fans are gonna stop watching the Vegas Golden Knights. I just think, it's hard to say bye to a guy that's become beloved in an organization, who's been there since the beginning, who helps bring you a Stanley Cup, who's having a remarkable season personally this year. And not to mention, look, Vegas is going to get into the playoffs and they're going to be dangerous. And Marchessault is probably going to be a part of that. So, if they were to make another run, imagine that. So no state tax in Nevada. So maybe he'll take a little bit of a friendly deal to keep himself there. So the other game last night, Johnny, another good feel to that game. Big win for LA. You've kind of been thinking LA was going to get caught. I mean, look, things have gotten really tight in the West. Can you, Vic? Can you throw up the Western Conference standings so we can look at how tight they are? I mean, obviously Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg are looking pretty comfortable in the Pacific, but in the Jesus, I'm drawing a blank today. In the Central. But you look at that Pacific division and you look at Edmonton at 88, LA at 87, Vegas at 85. I mean, that's tight. I mean, the next 10 games, one team goes cold and loses 3 or 4 games in a row. This could look a lot different in 10 days. It really could. And everybody was ready to, Vancouver's back. And then LA comes in and kind of bullies them around last night. I mean, they really did.
Let me ask you this. Would it be a good thing or a bad thing for the league if it's an Edmonton versus Vegas first round series?
Edmonton versus Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, people would watch for sure.
I know, but it just would suck to see one of those teams have to lose in the first round.
Listen,
not that it's a guarantee no matter what, but you know what I mean?
It's happening this season. There's no doubt it's going to happen this season.
So many good teams this year. It feels like you're going to be first round exits, and just because of the way that the playoffs are lining up.
I thought what was one of the interesting things that I picked out just watching a little bit of that LA game last night. They play such a hard man for man in the defensive zone. LA, like if you can win a one-on-one offensive play in LA's defensive zone, you're going to score against them because they don't have a star goaltender. And Sam Lafferty did it on his goal last night. He just beats LaFerriere, and you could just see like everybody else is like so heavily marked man for man that Lafferty is able to just parting of the Red Seas. He gets to the net. I'm trying to remember who was out on the ice, who the defensemen were out on the ice. Because I think one of them's got to help out there and kind of rotate out. But just watch Sam Lafferty beats LaFerriere on the wall. And then, I think that's Gavrikov just kind of waves at Lafferty rather than rotating out and trying to confront him. But, man for man can be a total bitch to play against. But if you can win a one-on-one, you're gonna get opportunities to score. And in the playoffs, like you're playing against, let's say, the Oilers or Vegas. They got players that can beat you one-on-one and can hurt you one-on-one. So that'll be interesting to see, Johnny.
What did you prefer to play in the D zone in your pro days, or I guess even
I liked more of a layered approach. I don't like man for man. I think, to be honest, it's too exhausting because you're chasing a guy around and then you don't have as much energy to get up the ice because you're having to, basically just mark a guy all around the zone. I prefer more of a, you've got a defenseman who goes, you've got a centerman who's kind of, playing that layered approach, kind of getting on their second guy. And then if you're the third defenseman or the, third guy down low, I mean, it's really three defensemen down low, center and two defensemen. If you're that net front D, you can make reads. Like you can cut a play off behind the net. You can start joining the rush if the puck gets bumped out of a battle on the wall. And then all of a sudden, like you're free to get up the ice or you're free to make a play defensively and make a read. So I always preferred that a little bit more than a man for man. So I've seen both, I've played both, but ultimately kind of more what I like to see and what I like to play.
But is it not more popular in today's game to cycle at the top of the zone? I feel like teams now, especially offensively, are starting to play a little bit more up top. Like they bring a third forward high and have three across the blue line.
Well, yeah, that's because the game has just become a total puck possession game.
I know. And wouldn't that be confusing in the D zone a little bit? Like I don't know. I guess I haven't played competitive hockey really in like 4 or 5 years, and
it's not confusing. It's you have certain parameters as a defenseman. You're not chasing a guy up to the blue line. You hand it off. Communication in the NHL is really good. It sucks at every other level, but guys in the NHL communicate so well throughout a game. There's so much conversation happening on the ice. There's tons of switches. Generally speaking, though, like you'll talk about certain rules, like, okay, I'm passing them off to you at the top of the circle, and if they switch, we switch, right? If it happens below the top of the circle, there's no switch. You stay with your guy. It's similar types of reads on 3-on-2s. If you're playing a 2-on-2, rush as a defenseman, if it's before they enter the offensive zone, okay, you are staying in your lane. If it's after they enter the offensive zone, you're switching. So those types of conversations are things that you talk about and you get into, and you kind of know in advance. So it's not confusing. It shouldn't be confusing. And I just think you're going to create more offense playing sort of a layered zone type of D rather than man for man, because like I said, man for man is so rigid and it's hard to break free. So let's get Frank in here.
Good breakdown though, Colby.
He's thanks, bud. He's ready to jump into the show. We got a lot of questions for him. What's going on, Frank? How's your morning going, buddy?
Doing all right.
What's with the face?
I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not feeling great today. I'm just went to bed with a migraine. The first time in my life I ever woke up with one. So, playing hurt today, but all good.
What'd you do this morning to try to cure it? Yeah, I'll probably give you a bigger headache.
Drank a liter of water and took an Excedrin.
Okay. I'll
don't
try
know
not
what
to talk
else
as
to
much.
do. I'm out of ideas.
Johnny woke up with a stomach ache.
Yeah.
So he was a little late getting to our pre-show meeting, and I wasn't late, but Rocket decided to roll in, I think, deer shit this morning, so I had to get him all showered off before the show. So everybody's
That's a
dealing
delicacy
with
for dogs. Why would you roll in it?
Yeah, I mean, Rocket. You've met Rocket before. He's a goofy guy. So let's get right into it, Frank, because we don't want to take too much of your time today like we normally do. And I think there's a number of UFAs, I think, that we're kind of curious to know if there's been any rumblings about. But the place I wanted to start with you today, there were reports going around social media. Actually, a college hockey reporter that I see quite often wrote in his newsletter this morning in a Substack that the NHL GMs were briefed, and I don't really know what they mean by briefed, on the fact that the CHL and the NCAA, or the NCAA, is close to potentially declaring CHL players eligible to play college hockey. There's ins and outs of that we could probably talk about for days, but we won't get into that. My question to you, because you were at the GM meetings, is what does that mean they were briefed on it? Like, how much detail?
I don't think very much. It wasn't a big topic of conversation. At least it didn't make it or trickle out very far to a lot of us. I think there's been rumblings of the NHL and CHL, or NCAA and CHL, in conversation for a while. It seemed like, I don't know, 3 months ago, maybe, a bunch of college hockey coaches came out and sort of poured cold water on the idea. I'm just going to take a step back and offer a personal opinion. I don't think the NCAA needs to do anything. I get the idea of NIL deals and how it's changed the college landscape, and essentially the money that some players, if any, are putting in their pockets at the NCAA level is very similar to what CHL players are getting. My point is, if you look at the dynamic of how college hockey has shifted in the last 5 to 8 years, some of the very best NHL prospects are already choosing the college route right away. Why would you alter and or cave things when it feels like you're close to delivering a knockout blow to the CHL anyway? Just my thought.
Yeah.
Why would you move forward and say, oh, hey, guys, come on down, no issue, play CHL, and then come here? I think, if anything, that's just going to put the NCAA in its own way. Because to me, the biggest problem in the NCAA is that it's become a league that caters to 20 to 24-year-olds, and it's too old. That's changing. That trend has been changing, and you're seeing true natural 18-year-old freshmen step in and be impactful players, and then obviously go on to successful NHL careers. But I'd like to see the league get younger, and I'd like to see that push be made, because I think, to me, it's clear what the best development path is for anyone with significant NHL prospects, is to come play college hockey.
Well, hold on, Johnny. I just want to finish this thought with Frank. I'm not, while I don't necessarily disagree with you, Frank, what I would say is I'm not sure they're going to have a choice. We see the NCAA taking a loss almost every other week right now in the courts about amateurism and what that really means. And there are players in college that are making a ton of money now, from their schools, and cost of attendance and Alston money and all these other things. And then the other thing that I would say to you is I agree with you. Like, the league, when you look at the big name schools and the big name programs with all the national championships in the history of college hockey, Michigan, BU, BC, Denver, North Dakota, those teams have these star freshmen. They do. And
Mhm.
in the last, let's say 3 seasons, really, really impactful freshmen, 18-year-olds, Celebrini and all the kids at BC and Cutter
Owen
Gauthier and
Power and
Michigan. Yeah,
exactly.
Michigan.
What the Hughes brothers I mean, it's like the big programs. I think where you see a lot of the older kids is at the programs that are trying to find a way to compete with BC and BU and Michigan. So they're going and finding the 20-year-old
Quinnipiac.
out of the USHL, but Quinnipiac's starting to get the really top end guys.
But here's what I'd say is that has changed. That's only really in the last 5 to 10 years at the most. Because before, a lot of those top end, the Owen Power kids they'd be staying in Canada to play CHL hockey
Mhm.
for the most part. So what's changed is now some of the best 17 to 18-year-old players in the world are choosing college hockey first. And then that's causing a trickle effect through the rest of the sport where, other top players are choosing that route. You even have a couple, every now and again, top end European players that are coming over and choosing college hockey.
Yeah, look at Willander, the kid from the Canucks who just went to BU 11th overall.
And then now it's trickling down because the rosters are changing over as a result of that. BU, BC, Michigan, all these other teams can begin to play players of that age. And then, like you said, there's a catch-up process, but that wasn't the case. Like Owen Power choosing to play NCAA hockey 20 years ago would never in a million years
It would have
happen.
been crazy. But
Yeah.
do you think, but let me just ask you, and then I promise, Johnny, you can take
Well, I
it.
want to chime in on this too, actually.
Don't you think part of that is because you're looking at it and you're going, okay, I can play against some of the best 16 to 19-year-olds in Canada. Look, you can't doubt that that's good like OHL, there's plenty of good players, but if you're Power or you're Celebrini, you're like, I can go do it against some of the best 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, but up to 24, 25-year-olds. Like I'm playing against guys who, yeah, they're not as skilled, but they're men. And that's going to get me ready for the next level. So I think that's one of the reasons these guys are choosing it, because they're playing against
There's a
legitimate
million reasons.
men.
That's not just that's I would say that's a small part of it. I would say the other part is that now, with the way the draft works and your rights, let's say you happen to be a 3rd round pick who lingers in college hockey a few years, you play 3 years and all of a sudden your team's trying to sign you and you have the option to either sign or a 4th year, you play 1 more year and you get to August and you become a total unrestricted free agent. So you're not hamstrung by that. You have the ability to get an education while you play. I know people would say, oh, that's still the case in the CHL, but a lot of times after high school, players stop going to school. The other part too is when you look at the status of the CHL, it's watered down. The competition isn't great. There's too many CHL teams in the OHL, WHL, NQ to really harness the talent that the country is producing. When you have 90 teams or whatever it is in the CHL, there's just not enough talent around to fill out the rosters 20 deep of those teams and make them entirely competitive. So you mash all those things together and you add in, some national TV appearances, a Frozen Four. I mean, there's a reason why it's become a really, really attractive option.
Also, I think I don't know if it was Colby who mentioned the money, but you can make more money now playing college hockey than you can playing in the CHL. And also,
so like Johnny, you'd know this. Like,
Yeah.
what are guys making?
I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, it's north of like $20,000
A semester.
Yeah.
Like at
If you're
Boston
a
College,
top guy, yeah.
Yeah, Boston College, those guys are making in Alston money and in cost of attendance money, which are school-funded checks. Those guys are getting about 25,000 a semester. Now they're able to do it at BC because they have football, they have basketball, they've got this pool of money. BU doesn't pay their players cost of attendance or Alston money. Those guys have to go out and get their own NIL deals or rely on an alumni type of collective for that type of situation. But most of these kids are getting decent money at these schools. Big Ten schools are paying even more. So they're making good money, Frank. Some of these guys could be making 50 to 100 grand a year on top of a scholarship that pays for food, tuition, living, books, like the whole
You're not
boat.
making that in the CHL.
No. And some of them might not make that much in the American League either. I mean, the top guys would, but I'm just saying in American League,
some of the top end, I believe some of the top end CHL players are getting essentially advances from their agents too.
Yeah.
That praise for a lot of stuff.
I also wonder if the transfer portal stuff has made it more popular too. Like you can, if you're
not stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Like even in the CHL, listen, I don't know how the CHL really works. I never played in it, but I imagine like you can get traded to a place you don't really want to be at. Whereas if you choose a college and you aren't happy, you can just pick another place to go if you're that good, right? Like a team will want a prospect who's that good. And if I'm a top guy and I go to Michigan and I'm unhappy, but I'm still that highly touted prospect and I change my mind and I want to go to North Dakota, I'm sure that wouldn't really be the biggest of issues, right?
It's like going from UMass to Mercyhurst.
Well, I think we've seen who's the player, Colby, that when there was a player that went from BC to BU.
Jamie Armstrong, Bill Armstrong's son.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is the most sacrilegious thing I've ever seen. Like
but still.
I struggle with that. I personally, and I like Jamie. I do. I got to know him when he was a Terrier, but I got to tell you, like, I mean, I would do anything for another year of college hockey eligibility I would give anything, do anything. I'd play for any team if I wouldn't play for BC. I'd play for anybody else, but I couldn't play at BC. Anywhere else.
So let's put a bow on this conversation.
Yeah.
And that is my opinion. Why would the NCAA get in bed with the CHL? What's the incentive to do so? You're already winning best.
Like I said,
some of the best
I don't
players.
disagree with you, but I don't think they're going to have a choice. I think they know lawsuits will be coming, lawsuits that they cannot win. And so I don't think they have a choice. I think that's why. That's my opinion. I just don't. And I've talked to NCAA lawyers, people that specialize in working in these NIL situations and have been fighting in court against the NCAA. I don't think they have a choice. I think that's why, Frank. I think they will lose, and they will lose quickly, like they lose every other thing. So, Johnny, let's keep it going. Let's get to some NHL, related stuff. There's a number of guys we want to ask you about. Go ahead, Johnny. I'll give you the floor here.
I'm laughing at Todd Weimer, though. He said Johnny had an NIL deal with Heinz Ketchup, which I definitely fucking would have if I was playing in college today, and that was the case.
Yeah, I would kick you out of the league just for that.
But speaking of upcoming free agents, Colby and I were talking about Jonathan Marchessault with Vegas having another incredible year, 33 years old. What do you make of that situation going on in Vegas with bringing in Tomas Hertl? Vegas is a team, we were talking about it, that doesn't necessarily build toward the future, but what would you give this kind of player right now who most likely will not be a Vegas Golden Knight next season?
Yeah, I was going to say that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is, when you look at Vegas and the success that they've had, I admire two parts of their aggression. One is they've been incredibly aggressive in going to acquire players, the shiny new toy on the market. They've brought in some of the biggest names since their franchise was founded in terms of making trades, making things happen, surprising people. How did they pull that off? All those things. On the other end of that, they've also been really aggressive in saying goodbye to pieces that no longer fit, either by salary or by age, or in Marchessault's case, maybe both. Now, I know with the season that he's had, really kind of carrying this team through varying stretches when some of their top dogs have been out, you look at it and you would say, well, how could they possibly afford to say goodbye? This is essentially his third consecutive 60-point season. He's hitting 40 goals for the first time in his career. This guy's aging like a fine wine. Why would we say goodbye? And to your point, when you bring in a contract like Hertl, when you are looking at your salary cap structure and situation and trying to fit in potentially Noah Hannafin this summer, how do you find a way to make all that money work? Yes, there's a cap increase coming. Yes, Alec Martinez is coming off the books at 5.25. So you hand the vast chunk of that plus half of the increase in the cap to Hannafin if you're keeping him. And then what do you do with Marchessault? I have a hard time seeing the path for him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as strong as his play has been, and it again doesn't seem like there's a drop off coming, at some point there probably will be, right? So the big question teams are going to have to ask themselves is, what could we pay Marchessault and find a way to be comfortable with it? Does it mean overpaying on AAV to keep the term down? Or are teams just going to continue to mortgage the future and say, hey, we're going to stretch this deal out as long as possible to keep the AAV down, and we'll deal with the consequences on the deal later? I don't know. Me personally, I lean toward, hey, Jonathan Marchessault, I don't know, pick another contending team. I'll give you 2 years at 7.5, which is a big raise, or whatever it is, $8 million, but it's only 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll discuss after.
And isn't there more complications around a 35 plus contract and how that gets bought out, Frank? Isn't it just a little more difficult with the recapture penalties and whatnot when you give a guy a longer contract that's going to be 35? Or is it if they sign it once they're 35? Do you know?
You have to be 35, so he's not eligible.
So he wouldn't be in a 35 plus contract.
Correct.
Okay, got it. I got 2 Flyers questions for you, Frank, around 2 situations. One I saw online and I rolled my eyes pretty hard, but I want to ask you to set the record straight. And it's the Carter Hart going to the KHL thing. That can't possibly have merit to it, can it, Frank?
I actually didn't follow up on that. I mentioned the migraine. I saw that last night. And on the surface, it actually makes sense if he can get permission from the Canadian government.
But because don't they take your passport when you're being charged with something.
So apparently they did not take his passport and or limit his travel, I guess, as part of the cooperation. That was some of the initial reporting. Again, I don't know if that's changed. I don't know exactly what the situation is, but if you're Carter Hart, and you're going through this ongoing legal process that's going to take quite literally years to play out. Like, we're talking trial may not begin until 2026 if it gets that far. 2026, like that's a long ways off. And you got to keep playing, you got to keep earning. Like, he's being paid this last year on his deal. None of the players in connection with this sexual assault have contracts that extend into next season, which I think is important to point out. And you've got to try and earn a living while you're still in your prime, I would think. So on the surface, if this is going to be a long and drawn out process and no NHL team is going to be taking you on, which I'd be very surprised, then it makes sense to me to go there in the one place that you can kind of
next season, though, not this season.
This season's over.
Okay, got it. Okay, here's my one other Flyers related question, Frank. They bring in Johansson at the trade deadline, right? They put him on waivers right away. Then he says that he has some sort of injury, correct? And my question for you with Johansson, or Johansson, however we're saying it, that seems to change quite a bit. Ryan Johansson.
You could just call him Joey, since you seem to struggle with that.
Yeah, I don't know him, so I'm not going to call him that. But how does it work as far as buying out a player that's injured? Can you buy out so if he's got some sort of long-term injury, what ends up happening with him next year? He just has to sit on their cap and what, they LTIR him? How does that work?
So the short answer to that is yes. I think the Flyers are surprised, and I guess you would say annoyed and or disappointed with how this has played out. Because
in Colorado?
Johansson.
Okay.
because apparently he arrived in Philly and went on waivers and took the morning skate. And then once he cleared, he thought he was going to play. And then once he was cleared waivers and was being ready to get sent down, learned he was getting sent down. He says, oh, I can't go up. My hip hurts. So I think the Flyers were like, hold on a second here. No one had mentioned hip issue at a Hansen, at least my understanding is that he's seeking additional medical opinions about the hip. But the point is, yes, you cannot be bought out if you're hurt. So what's in it for Johansson to have a hip issue and potentially surgery on the other end of it is you'd save yourself a few $1 million, because that would be the Flyers' intention, I think, would be to buy him out in the summer. So he would get 2/3 of the $8 million that he's owed.
Well, only 4 from the Flyers, right? The buyout would only
the
be
Flyers,
the
the money part is rather irrelevant. Like if you look at it from the Flyers' perspective, they were planning to buy him out the whole time.
Okay.
I'd love to hear it to keep going, Frank.
No, yes, I was going to say, so
yeah.
2/3 of that he'd be getting in his pocket. Whatever 8 times 0.66, as I do this math on the fly, is for what's in it for Johansson is like $2.75 million that he'd save by having a hip issue. And I go, hip issue. Because my question would be, doesn't every hockey player who has played 905 NHL games have a hip issue? My guess is probably yes.
Yeah, every guy, literally.
We talked about the hip issues. What was it last week, Colby, or yesterday even? I don't remember.
Yeah, we talked about it.
John Tortorella and Ryan Johansson have a long history, so that was never going to be a thing in Philly. But they basically just said, hey, we'll take on the contract if it means we can get a first-round pick from you. That's how they worked their way into it with the Walker deal.
Well, Frank, I was going to ask you about the Islanders and what they should do, but I kind of want to just go in the direction of asking you what I should ask John Tortorella this morning, because I'm going to Flyers morning skate after the show, and Colby wants me to basically get ripped apart by him. And
I'm hoping there's a viral moment.
I'm trying to get some collab effort here from the chat.
What are you looking to like? I would be careful getting in and not.
This is my first time interacting with him. So
not for the reason that you think. It's more so just if you follow John Tortorella closely and his media interviews, if you ask a question, don't ask something that has an obvious answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone asked about Sam Erson, they said, "Oh, it seemed like there was a couple he might like to have back," and I was like, he just went like this, like, and then walked off because he made a statement, offered opinion, and then was like, react to it. That's not how you get an answer. So he can be incredibly insightful if you ask the right thing. Like find something that you genuinely would like to know about. The thing I'd be curious about is he's had a lot of different teams in different situations. He's had Stanley Cup contender and winner. He's had team going for it with the Rangers. He's had a disastrous situation in Vancouver and then a team that was mostly mid in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Has this season and this team been his greatest coaching challenge? That's what I'd be curious to know.
Well, I was actually going to lean in the direction of, do you almost feel like you're coaching with house money because no one expected you to be in a playoff spot this time of year? But I don't know if that's
his answer will be, you may not have expected it.
Yeah, you're not getting a good answer on that question.
I know. That's why
ask him. Definitely don't ask him if he eats ketchup on pasta. Don't ask him that.
I just wrote that in the chat, I think, right? But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely a little nervous about asking John Tortorella a question. I'd be lying if I said.
Why be nervous? He's just another human being.
Yeah.
But go into it with a curious mind, asking a definitive question. Don't make any statements.
Mm-hmm.
Don't add in your own opinion, and ask a real question.
Should I just ask him how he spends his off weekends? Keep it light.
No. Unless you're Colby and you want to talk about dogs.
Yeah.
That might be different, but I don't think that's the kind of mood he's going to be in this morning.
Maybe we'll get some questions from the chat, get a little help from the chat. But
well,
yeah,
I just gave you a question.
Well, I'm curious to hear what the chat say too. We don't ignore the people that listen.
So
to
he
this.
obviously doesn't.
But I'm saying like that
Frank,
could be
he obviously doesn't like your question.
No,
that
I
could
thought
be
it
a
was good.
whole story on dailyfaceoff.com.
I thought it was good. I'm just curious to hear what the chat say.
Is this the greatest coaching challenge you've had? The biggest coaching challenge?
We listen to the people on this show. But I guess, Frank, do you would you be surprised if Lou Lamoriello is still the GM of the Islanders next season?
Surprised? No. Saw him at the GM meetings. He is as spry as ever. He had a couple wisecracks for us in the media. I think, his track record speaks for itself. I think clearly the New York Islanders ownership is on board and in line with the way he runs his team. For me, like, it's not a surprise to see a Hall of Fame GM, regardless of how distant that success has been, to continue on. To me, I think the Islanders need change, and I don't know that it necessarily has to be Lou Lamoriello that's the change. It's just that he hasn't.
What change are you talking about?
He hasn't shown any willingness to change his approach in building this team. It's been double down, triple down, quadruple down on the same roster that each successive year from an Eastern Conference final appearance, they're going in the wrong direction. So that part, to me, why continue to do more of the same? I think there's been some bright spots. I think another fantastic year from Noah Dobson that seemingly no one is talking about nationally.
You've been hyping up Dobson all year.
But nationally, not a lot of people. Like, I don't hear them talking in Vancouver, but wherever it might be, I'm not seeing it elsewhere. I just think this team needs a shot in the arm. I think Barzal needs help.
You think Barzal's an elite player?
I do.
You think he's a franchise player?
I do.
Okay, we disagree.
I just think he hasn't had proper support.
Okay.
I can get behind that.
I can't.
What part about him doesn't? Why do you not think he is?
Because to me, he's a perimeter player. And I just don't think perimeter players are franchise types of players. They're compliments. He's an all-star. I think he's an all-star caliber talent. But when I watch him play, he just plays way around the edges. And I think that he holds on to the puck. I don't think he brings up the level necessarily of guys around him. So I don't think he's a franchise cornerstone. I think Noah Dobson is heading in that direction. He's close. I think Sorokin, although not this year, but I think Barzal is more of a complementary piece and an all-star caliber talent, but I do not think he's a franchise cornerstone type of forward. I just don't. I don't think so.
It's a fair opinion. I mean,
loves this debate.
And look, it sounds like it's one that you guys have had repeatedly.
Not really, honestly. We really haven't. It's more fans, get in my face about that. And I had this kind of differing of opinion with a number of Islanders fans when I said Braden Point is world's better player than Matt Barzal. Like I said, every GM in the NHL I think would pick Point over Barzal if you had one spot on your team and it was between those two players.
That is correct.
I said, including the
Islanders
GM. Yeah. And that's kind of where that whole debate got sparked, where people are telling me that Barzal's a better player than Point. Point just has better players to play with. And like, I just find that to be,
they're two totally different players.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah, but they're both counted on to score. And one scores
Barzal's never been a scorer in the NHL.
So then how's he a franchise cornerstone if he's not a scorer?
Playmaker.
How many playmakers do you see end up
being? Okay, but you're saying when I say score, When I say scorer, I mean points. I don't necessarily just mean goals.
Okay,
I mean a point.
He's
scorer.
going to be north of a point per game this year.
And I do agree that Braden Point has definitely had better.
He's got
support around
73
him.
points in 70 games. It's his best season since 2017-18.
Since his rookie year, right?
He's gonna finish probably at 85, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. And what is he in his 10th year?
No.
8th,
9th season, I believe.
This is his 7th right now.
7th.
So
you've been this
7
right
years in the
now.
league.
But here's my point. Right now, his current he's at his career high in goals, which is 22, and he's got 73 points. That's 51 assists. They said there would be no math. Point is a 50-goal scorer. Like, we're not comparing apples to apples. Point's at 40 goals this year already. We're just not. What we're looking at is probably, he's not as good, so forgive this comparison, Johnny. But what you're looking at to me is more along the lines of a Panarin type player. If we're just thinking pure archetype and how they approach the game, he's way more in line with a Panarin than a Point.
I agree.
But not as good. I mean, nowhere near as effective.
No, but like, also look at Panarin's seasons up until this same age, and their numbers probably aren't crazy different.
Panarin's had like 3 straight 90-point years, I think.
Okay, but look at Panarin and his age, and look at when he came over. Yeah, he was initially scoring some more goals than Barzal is now. But he still had 77, 74, 82, 87. Then he came to the Rangers. Those numbers aren't crazy different.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we could argue this. We do it every week with.
So, but then
Barzal.
big question is, how did Panarin go from that to 43 goals this year? What was the big change in Panarin's game that's gotten him there?
It's his right winger. We all know that. Alexi Lafreniere.
So then doesn't that bring us back to the support argument that I just the point that I made?
Yeah, he's playing with a future 100-point player. Obviously, he's going to put up 40+ goals. Come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
All right, on that note,
all right, look,
Frank, we got to continue here.
Thank you for your time today. We'll ask you next week about all the UFAs we wanted to get to today. Carolina's got a boatload of guys.
We got 3 months from this week, Friday, to get to 3 months from next Monday
is what the draft.
UFA. So I ain't worried. I'll be here.
All right, buddy. Have your day. Feel better. All right.
See you guys.
All right, let's get into let's get to our Tim's tweet of the night. All right, let's move this thing along. Let's see. You could have some redemption today. How about that?
Okay, let's do the Tim Hortons tweet of the night. Roll Up to Win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary. Celebrate our big year with some big prizes: an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, sun-soaked Hilton getaways, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Available only on the Tim's app. And Colby, this is your tweet of the night. I believe you picked this one. So back-to-back days that you've picked it. So why don't you bring us home here with the Tim Hortons tweet of the night?
Yeah. So somebody tagged Butchie and I, John Butchergross and I, in a video yesterday of a college hockey call between him, Barry Melrose, and I. And Butchie and I were kind of just reminiscing about, how great Barry was to work with. This will be our first year not doing the Frozen Four with him. And the three of us have done 6 of these together. They did way more before I joined them. And so this video got tweeted to us. Take a listen to the call from John Butchergross. I chime in a little bit and then listen to Barry at the end, just how like witty and entertaining and sharp he is. Go ahead, Vic. Play the video for us.
There's some smaller defensemen, and they can do this. Puck is loose. It's right in front. It's a mosh pit. What's going on down there? Holy shnikes. Notre Dame's going to end up with a penalty here, too. Cross check right in front of the net. How can you only give one penalty in that? This is an overhead cam delight right here. There should have been 4 penalties on each team with that. Look at this mess. There's a cross check. There's an elbow. There's a knee. There's a slash. There's a headbutt. Oh, that's a double cross check. This is like a holy.
Yeah, so just a little tribute to our friend Barry Melrose, and then John Butchergross subtweeted it out. And he said, this brings back amazing memories doing 17 years of college hockey games with Barry Melrose. It makes me so sad. He has effing Parkinson's. He was so quick, sharp, and explosive. A joy to work and hang with. Colby Cohen and I had such fun and chemistry with Barry. It won't be the same without him. He's such a giant. So just a little bit of a tribute to our guy, Barry Melrose. Like, you just hear him. There's an elbow. There's a slash. Just hearing him be so quick and witty was just absolutely incredible. Again, it'll suck not having him with us this year. Obviously Parkinson's really started to get the best of him over the last couple of years, and you could just see he was losing that kind of sharp wit. I've got my Barry Melrose little ode to Barry right there up on my shelf. So that was a great tweet. It was a great video. We love hearing and seeing stuff like that. That's from like maybe 5 years ago in the Manchester Regional. So thanks to our partners at Tim's. We appreciate you sponsoring the segment. It's a lot of fun. Johnny, did you win the $10,000 yet or not yet?
No, I haven't.
You haven't won that. Have you even tried to win the $10,000?
There's no Tim's around here, but
get in the car.
I know.
If you win, then you can win the ID4. You can drive places. You don't even.
We
need
talked about it yesterday. I fucking love Tim's. I love Tim's.
So, great tweet. It was great to see Butchie do that. I'm sure this weekend there's going to be a lot of Barry Melrose talk in the NCAA tournament. So if you love Barry like the rest of us, if you grew up watching and listening to Barry, you'll get some of that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to get into the games tonight. A great tribute like Colby just did, but there are 12 NHL games tonight, and a lot of them have huge playoff implications. Obviously, I'll be at the Ranger Flyers game, but the one that I'm most interested in actually watching, which I'll try to have on my laptop during the game so Colby can chirp me tomorrow about how I don't see everything that happens in the Flyers-Rangers game tonight. But the Red Wings Capitals game.
Your head is buried in your computer.
There's a lot going on, of course. Yeah, you're going to miss some things. But the Red Wings and Capitals game tonight, to me, is the game to watch. If Washington wins and Philly loses, I believe the Capitals jump the Flyers for third in the Metropolitan Division. So that's big in itself, but also for that second wild card spot too. Detroit, are we calling this a must win for the Red Wings? It's got to be, right?
I mean, it's a 4-point swing. That's for sure.
It's got to be. I would imagine. And
mean, Washington's one of the hottest teams in the league right now too. Is anybody going to cool them off? Is Ovi going to have another 2 goals tonight? I mean, he might get 35 this year. A week ago, we said 30. Now he might get to 35 the way he's scoring right now.
Mm-hmm. And then you look across the rest of the league, Boston versus Florida. The winner of that game can take over the Atlantic Division and all these President's Trophy implications as well. Austin Matthews going for 2 goals tonight against the Devils to try to get 60.
2 more to 60 right here. So it's really funny because, like, I'd say a month ago, we're like, we know what the playoff looks like. We know who's going to play who. Mm-hmm. We should change the point system to 3-2-1. Well, we're 10 games out. Now some teams have 10 games left, and like it's a total shit show. We have no idea how these are going to finish. The races, even the top of the races for the most part, Boston and Florida, New York and Carolina, like you look out west, the teams are all within a point of each other. There's going to be I don't think there's going to be any load management here the next 2 weeks of the NHL season because there's just so much still on the line. To see where these seedings end up finishing. Look at Edmonton and Winnipeg. Neither of those teams have been playing great. Edmonton just had a bad road trip. Winnipeg's been slumping a little bit. We're going to see the Shane Doan son debut in Arizona tonight. I'm not going to lie. I'm not watching that game. Columbus against Arizona. I will not have my eyes on that game. Colorado, we thought for a couple of weeks everything ran through them. I still think it probably does with the way that roster is built.
Yep.
Carolina looks to stay hot.
Carolina, the thing about Carolina too, they could jump the Rangers tonight if the Rangers lose against Philly for the first time. The Rangers been in first all year, basically.
Yeah, Gensel and Pitt. So things are happening. Like there could be some crazy shifts after tonight's action in the standings. So let's get to our Betway bet of the day. Remember, we've been offering a new special on our show. You can get a free bet of up to $200 if your first bet loses. All you do is create a new account. We've got the QR code on our screen right now. So if you're audio only, you just got to come to the 1 hour mark of our show, and you can get this QR code, scan it to your phone, and you can place a bet. If that bet loses, your $200 or up to $200, that'll get refunded into your account. Okay. And then you can continue to find other games. Don't take betting advice from Jonny Lazarus. That is the only way you will continue to lose money. This offer only available outside of Ontario, so don't forget that. If you're in Ontario, I'm sure at some point over the next couple of weeks, we'll get some sort of offer that's more specifically for you. We love our partners at Betway. They're our presenting sponsor. They're always offering good action to our listeners. So don't forget, make the account, get the 200, take the free bet, maybe take a big swing on a parlay. Maybe you bet 200, you could win 4,000 or 5,000 on an 8-game parlay. That's worth the fact that you're getting that free $200. So let's get to our bet of the day. It's from our man Jeremiah in the chat. He likes Philadelphia tonight on the money line. You're getting plus 160 against the Rangers. This is a way bigger game for the Philadelphia Flyers than it is for the New York Rangers. New York, they're banged up, right? No Lindgren. Okay. Is Gustafsson out?
He's out. Trouba too.
He's out. Truba's been out. So 3 of the regulars that have put the Rangers in the place that they're in are not playing tonight. So this one's Jeremiah Maxwell's bet from the chat, plus 160, Philadelphia Flyers money line. We'll see how that goes. I need the Flyers to win because I'm starting to get a little nervous about my bet with you, Johnny. They had a couple of big wins the other night, and I was feeling pretty good. Now Washington is absolutely rolling along, so I'm a little bit nervous about where the Flyers are going to be. They're also pretty banged up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Drysdale's still not back playing. Ristolainen's still not back playing. We saw all the drama around the Couturier-Tortorella situation. I think Sean Couturier handled it really well and kind of squashed it a couple of days ago, which is what a captain should do. So I think he kind of did his best to really put a bow on it. What would be interesting is if it happened again, then I think that the top gets blown off and, you're in big trouble. Sealer's been out for a while. Keith C in the chat is kind of, listing it off. We already hit Drysdale and Risto. Maybe Jonny Laz will ask John Tortorella about his buddy Dubinsky tonight or today when you go to the pregame skate. So we're going to let you go here, Johnny. I know you got to get to pregame skate. I know you got to go sit in a player's stall in the Rangers locker room and make yourself extra comfortable. Maybe put your arm around your boy Alexis Lafreniere and tell him he really needs to get 50 points this season.
Should I say something to Trocheck next time I see him?
No, you shouldn't.
Why? Is that going to throw you under the bus?
No, you can. I don't care. He's just going to think you're even more of a creep. I mean, if you want to do that, go for it. But anyways, we appreciate all the love in the chat today, all the questions. It's good having Frank on. Good job today, Vic. You were on the money with our B-roll. And then we'll see everybody tomorrow. Good job today, Johnny. Good luck with John Tortorella. I hope and pray whatever you do ends up on Spit and Chicklets. I hope you ask him something. I hope it goes viral. I hope it ends up on Chicklets. That would really make my day if something like that were to happen today. So we'll see what happens. You want a last word here?
Well, yeah, you forgot an important detail. We got Bobby Ryan coming on the show tomorrow, so that'll be fun. Talk to a former NHL player. Really cool guy. So excited to have him on. Colby and him are actually from somewhat similar area, right? You guys grew up 30 minutes apart, probably?
Something like that. He's from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So
So it'll be cool to talk to him. But hope everyone has a great day. A lot of hockey to watch tonight, so enjoy it. And we'll talk to you tomorrow, 9 a.m.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.